Hello and welcome to the latest of our online podcasts talking to CEAR researchers about their experience. My name's Simon O'Connor and I am the director of CEAR at the Centre for Education Action Research. And I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Kevin Dupont. Kevin works at Deira International School. So Kevin, could you just very quickly give us a brief introduction as to who you are, what you do, what your role in education is?
Sure. Well, thanks, Simon, for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin. I'm the head of University and Careers Counseling at Deira International School, like Simon said. So my role is to advise all of our students on their future pathways, whichever that might look like. If they're in year 9 and they're thinking about their GCSEs, if they're in year 11 thinking about IB or one of our other offerings, or they're in IB and looking to move on to university or a vocation, whatever that might be, that's my role. In addition, I do some work with our students as well on securing work placements, either within our Al-Futtaim network or beyond our school as well. That keeps me quite busy throughout the school day.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And I think there's a really interesting point here, because I think some people may have misunderstood that education action research is only for teachers in the classroom. And I think you're living proof of the fact that's not the case. So to come to you, what you are currently engaged in CEAR, you're taking part in one of our action research projects. Before we actually talk about what it is that you're doing, why was this something you felt that you'd like to be interested in joining? What drew you to this, to taking part in this?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I'm quite interested in seeing how Key Stage 3 corresponds to conversations about careers and how that is embedded within a curriculum. Because obviously in schools you have a lot of students, and there are some great ways that can be integrated into English lessons and math lessons. And I really think that would be a unique experience to examine. And so I decided to research that and do a little bit of case studies in some lessons with teachers and students, and to see how they interact with our career learning platform, which is called Unifrog, and how they use that. Also, how teachers integrate some of the lessons that are in Unifrog into their lessons, or how they then enhance their topics with some topics about careers as well, or additional conversations about that. Because I think as students understand what the applicability is of what they're learning to whatever future that might be for them, then that will only enhance what they know and how they come to know it. So that's why I chose the topic. It's an interesting one because Key Stage 3, you're looking at year 7 to 9, 10 or so, 7 to 9 really, which is a not an exam-based cohort of students. But I think that's why it's so important, is to get them thinking while they're in that frame of mind before they get to those exam-based years.
Yeah, absolutely. But if I was playing devil's advocate, you could have done some investigation on that without actually taking part in doing actual research. You could have maybe sent out a survey, but you've made the decision to go that one step further and actually to do a completed project. Why that decision to step it up and to actually do that slightly more in-depth engagement?
Our school is only one school. And just because our school is doing it doesn't mean that it's, let's say, standardized or could be effective elsewhere. And while every school has to adapt, I find that looking at schools, let's say in the UK, right, which also do GCSEs in the British curriculum, or look at our sister school, Universal American, and to see that American curriculum and see the differences, similarities, and also just see maybe how we can learn from each other, right? Students will have to learn about careers one way or another. It doesn't matter what curriculum they're doing per se. So that's why I want to do a little more research and to do a bit more of a comparative analysis to see how all of this can be utilized in the future, no matter what curriculum or offering the student is doing in their school.
Yeah, because those skills and that perception is going to be required irrespective of what subjects or what context those students are going to be moving on to. And I think for me, the other thing, and this comes to the real heart of what I think the Centre for Education Action Research is providing, is that at the end of this process, you will be recording your results in some form, and that will enable others to learn from your research as well. Because I think a lot of the time we spend time answering questions, and because of time, because of having the right apparatus to share it, not existing, we keep those findings to ourselves. Where in your situation, irrespective of what you find, you will be able to communicate that to others. So how is the research going? How have you got on so far? And I appreciate we're relatively early on it. We're talking in December, so you've had a couple of months so far. How is it going? What have you done so far?
I've had a few trial lessons with some teachers. So we've either had the students interact with, let's say, a university professor or with the topics around careers. We did a topic particularly looking at journalism and English lessons, also in the future of, let's say, medicine, but not becoming a doctor, which was quite interesting. So we
Oh,
was really
right.
looking
Yeah.
at other related careers in a medical field, but not going to do an MD and pay a lot of money and graduate in 15 years. So that was something that I wanted students to really understand, that there are so many other options. And it went over really well. I had students asking me, oh, what does it mean to be a laboratory research analyst in a hospital?
Yeah.
And what does it really mean to be involved in healthcare administration, the nexus of business and healthcare, really, or medicine rather. So that was quite interesting to see students thinking of it differently and seeing careers that maybe they didn't know about or have not seen before in Dubai. They can then explore elsewhere, wherever that might be, because you never know where they go in the end.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you would know this far better than I do, but my perception has always been that the understanding that students have of the enormous diversity of post-school opportunities that are out there is really rather slim. It tends to be based actually particularly on parental experience and parental knowledge, whereas this will help from an early age. You build that understanding that students have of, at the very least, although I'm sure it'll be far more than this, at the very least, there's lots out there and to go out and investigate it.
Yeah, precisely. And I think also involving parents in this conversation as well is really crucial, because part of that is breaking or debunking some of those myths. But then also another part of it as well is allowing parents to see that these conversations are not just going to be had with a careers counselor, that they have to also be had with teachers and have to be had with, with stakeholders in the school, because we are a team in the end. A lot of times student subject choices are reliant upon this future career, which might actually not be the best fit for them. They might not have that ability yet. Maybe in the future they will, but not yet. So that helps us really frame things all together. And it also allows students and parents to see the importance of getting it right in terms of subject selection and not being too aspirational for a student at too young of an age, and then everything starts to, change development cycle for each student.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things from what you're doing as well is, again, I think a misconception is that these kind of conversations need to start at age sort of 16 when they're on the IB or in other schools on A level, whereas what you're showing actually is it's this a conversation that needs to start and certainly not finish, but just begin that conversation probably in year 7, which when you've got parents who have just had their child leave primary school, it feels like it's years off, but you and I both know the earlier that conversation can begin, the more beneficial it will be. People begin to frame their thoughts about what it is they want to move to. Thank you for that. I mean, have you any idea how you're going to present this at the end? How is the actual research going? What are your intentions, maybe let's say for next term?
Well, to be fully honest, right now I'm at a kind of a stage of looking at all the data and seeing words and numbers and not knowing what to do with it. So that's where I am at the moment. But I mean, in terms of putting it all together, I definitely want to get some student testimonials. I would love to have students with me as I present as well, because I really think that their integration is quite important.
Yeah.
We have a unique cohort of elder students in the IB here, called Future Pathways Ambassadors, which is a group of student leaders who are helping me with this effort, not just in my research, but in other efforts in my department as well in the school. And they are actually going to be kind of highlighting some of the things that they've seen from students and they've talked to students about, because they're able to have more informal conversations and more sort of authentic conversations sometimes than I'm able to have as a teacher. So that's going to be, their inclusion is really paramount as well.
And that obviously elevates your research from simply looking at your perception and your findings to actually very meaningfully engaging student voice as well and their perceptions into what you're finding. That's really exciting. Very much looking forward to seeing what emerges. Whilst we're on that topic, it would seem a natural segue to talk about the fact that at Deira International School this year, we do have, for the first time, we're running a pilot with actually some of our sixth form students, our IB students, engaged in education action research themselves. Now, I know you spend a lot of time with our IB students, so a couple of questions really. Firstly, what's the kind of thing they're looking at, but also how's it going? What are they finding so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, from kind of what they're looking at in reality, doing research in high school is a very unique opportunity, and to have this centered around education, I think, is really, really important, because oftentimes students think they have to go and work with a university professor somewhere, or they have to go and, solve the, they find the answer to world hunger, when actually that's not necessarily the case. It can be quite realistic and quite, I would say, focused, in some way. Just getting the experience is really useful, and they can apply that to whichever mean they wish to do that. So a lot of the students being involved now are just curious to see how this is being done, how this can be organized. For some of them, it's the first time they've ever really done research at this level. For other ones, it's actually a prelude to their extended essay, which is a part of the IB that they do. And then from that as well, in terms of how this is applicable for their futures, I mean, it's not just another opportunity for them to talk about in an application, in an interview, in a personal statement, or wherever. It's also a valuable opportunity for them to have themselves published in either Al-Futtaim's Momentum magazine, or in another, in CEAR's Quest magazine as well. The opportunities for them are really great, and that's a tangible publication. They can use that on their LinkedIn in the future. They can use that as they go around Dubai or wherever they are and present. We've had students in year 13 presenting this year on topics that they've created. Why not year 12s doing the CEAR project? So I think they're really enjoying it, although I must say that they are a bit, I would say, surprised by the amount of depth they have to go into, which is not a bad thing, right? That's university level experience, and they should get that from now. But I think they're enjoying it so far.
Good, and I'm really excited. I'm excited about everything that CEAR does, but I'm excited about their involvement for exactly the reasons you've just said, because it will open their eyes to what the reality of research is in a relatively confined and limited way. It's a safe environment as opposed to what they will experience at university. But it will be fascinating to see their perspectives as well, that will help feed into the wider sort of knowledge growth that we've got going on at CEAR. And it's worth saying that we will be producing a second edition of Quest magazine at the end of this academic year. My hope is that we're going to have far many articles, so we will be picking the best ones, and without question we'll be involving some of those students. But everybody that writes up the article or produces a presentation, we are adding it to the CEAR website, and anyone watching this can find the link to that and explore the research projects that were done last year, but also very much with anticipation as to the projects that will be completed at the end of this year. Kevin, thank you very much for that. It's been really interesting talking to you, and I know that people watching this will find it equally useful as well. Just a little bit of an insight to someone that's doing such valuable research, but not necessarily from the background that everyone would expect. So thank you for your efforts. Thank you for joining us today, and we are really looking forward to finding out what it is that you managed to conclude at the end of it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Simon. Appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.